I will just take this opportunity to give a very brief background that the City of Moscow engages the Idaho legislature through various ways throughout the year. One of the ways that we're able to engage them, besides the annual AIC Day at the Elected Officials Day at the Legislature, and various and sundry participation in boards and assistance, technical assistance to AIC. One of the ways we engage them is every several years when there is a legislative election, the North Idaho Chamber of Commerce would bring the entire legislature north on a charter plane, and either Coeur d'Alene once every 4 years, Moscow and Lewiston once every 4 years, would be able to take a look, interact with these legislators, sometimes for the very first time that some of these folks would ever make it to North Idaho. So it was very instructive to kind of show them around. Usually the cities would have some time, the university would have some time, counties would have some time, so on and so forth. So that's changed a little bit, and I'll leave it up to Paul Kimmel to explain why the North Idaho Chamber of Commerce is no longer running the operation, but it changed over the last couple of years, and they are seeking sponsorships to help defray the costs of bringing the legislators up and taking care of them while they're here. So as you can see in your packet, if the council decides that it does wish to sponsor one of these activities, that the recommendation would be that those funds be allocated from legislative reserve or non-prioritized projects in the legislative budget. So with that, I would ask Paul to come forward.
Thank you, Gary. Mayor, council members, you have in your packet in front of you, and I had a chance to discuss this with your Public Works Finance Committee last week. But the North Idaho Legislative Tour is really a unique opportunity that I'm not aware of many states having the ability to bring 90+% of the state legislators to a region of their state for essentially a captive audience for an extended period of time. So the genesis of this was a group called the North Idaho Chamber of Commerce, and this was I served on that. Earl Bennett was the most recent Latah County representative, but it represented all of the chambers within North Idaho, from Lewiston, Grangeville, north to Canada. And the intent of that was that, many, as Gary had suggested, many of these legislators have never made it past McCall, maybe Reagan's, very unfamiliar with what drives our economy and what's so unique about these communities up north. So that was the impetus for putting these together. And it happens immediately following a state election. So given that we have state races in November, this is the year that falls on for the tour. We rotated between the northern counties, so Kootenai, Bonner, Benewah, Boundary. So we'll house it maybe some years in Coeur d'Alene or some years in Sandpoint. And then the other years we rotated down to the southern part of the northern region in Lewiston and Moscow. And so we're fortunate this year to co-host it with Lewiston. So we have the legislators here for 2.5 days. And typically the way the tour works, we have to raise about $100,000 to do this. Much of that is just for travel and lodging for the legislators. We don't pay for spouses, and others that want to join us are free to sign on board and attend as well. But it costs money to fly those legislators up, but we do it. And this year we're going to fly them into, unfortunately, we couldn't get a charter for less than about $50,000. So we're flying them in commercially into Spokane. We'll put them on some buses. We'll take them into Coeur d'Alene. They'll have lunch at North Idaho College. And again, there's some new construction on the North Idaho College campus, some pretty cool stuff going on there. And then we'll put them on Highway 95 and we'll bring them down here. So they'll get to see some of their transportation investment dollars at work around Sanders and that just south of Tensed, which is good. Highway 95 is always a point of discussion, contention, and interest for us up in North Idaho. And then we have them here. We'll rest them up a little bit, and then we have dinner here in Moscow that evening. We'll work with the university on showcasing some of their great activities as well as the city. And again, that dinner is an opportunity for the city to talk about what's great in Moscow, whether it's urban renewal. I mean, it's anything, name your issues. The microphones are open, and that's the whole point. We provide access for our communities, for our businesses, to 90% of the legislature. Some of the issues that we've talked about as a planning committee. So since the North Idaho Chamber of Commerce members all got old and tired, there was still a lot of interest and support to continue this. It's too valuable to just say, you know what, it's too much work. We don't want to do it anymore. Our fear was that if we quit doing it, we'd never get it back. We'd never resurrect it. So there was commitment. So several of us at Avista, we have chamber directors both in Lewiston and Moscow. Coeur d'Alene is involved as well. Then some business leaders. University of Idaho has a representative with Joe Stegner, LCSC, Kathy Martin, and I'm trying to think, North Idaho College is also engaged. And we sort of custom tailor the agenda to reflect the communities where we're going to be hosting this. So in our case, we have them in Moscow, and we're going to share them for a day in Lewiston, so they'll get to showcase Clearwater Paper, Vista Outdoor Products, Idaho Forest Group, the LC campus, and what's going on with some of their programming as well, and Schweitzer, actually, too. But lots of things to talk about here. Let me just talk about, and some of the highlights that we've worked on here so far. We'll have some U of I tours. We will take them to MZ, and we'll talk about what this regional economy looks like in this community, as well as the entire North Idaho. Commerce Director Megan Ronk will join us there, and we'll also talk about some of the state incentives that are working. Again, many of these legislators don't have a lot of day-to-day interaction with commerce, so we want to make sure that this is focusing on business and what drives the economies here, education, higher ed, K-12, and what else is going on here. We'll look at Gritman's expansion and their investment in the community. We'll also take them through on the way back to the Spokane airport. We'll take them by the airport, our airport, and show them what 1 million cubic yards of soil looks like when it's moved, as well as the investment they are making and our local communities are making in that runway realignment. And then we'll also talk about shared workforce and some of the issues that we have, and we share with that shared economy with Schweitzer Engineering. We'll feed them lunch and then take them back. So there are many gaps in our itinerary so far that we open up for our communities and sponsors to engage with the legislators. And again, this is not like going to Boise with the Association of Idaho Cities or Counties. You truly get more faces and people in front of you in your community. It's really a cool opportunity to showcase what's so great about the communities. The uniqueness of Main Street in Moscow, the importance of the U of I campus, the power of urban renewal districts in our community. And also talk about, the role of entrepreneurs and small business. So agriculture is always a good topic here. Transportation, and of course, one of my favorites is water, and we engage them, and they give us money. They fund the projects, and much of that groundwork is created at these events, these tours. And so again, it's part lobbying, it's part advocacy, it's all about engagement with our state decision makers and our funders. We have JFAC, Joint Finance and Appropriation, that comes here occasionally in the summer on their tour, but again, I get an opportunity once in a while to talk economics with them, but it's about a 15-minute slot. So again, this is a 2.5-day opportunity to engage. And I invite all of you to be a part of that in some form or fashion. We have opportunities for you to ride on the buses, to sit next to legislators, to focus on the committees with the committee members that are important and germane to the issues that you want to be engaged in. So how do we fund this $100,000? We have lots of corporate sponsors. My company, Avista, and Schweitzer actually seeded some startup capital to fund a paid position. Jerry DeLange, she is an actual City of Hayden councilwoman, and she is our organizer in putting the tour together for us. So Avista and Schweitzer seeded that money to pay her salary to put this event on. And then we solicit lots of corporate support from Monsanto, Clearwater Paper, Potlatch, Hecla Mining, McGregor, Simplot, Idaho Forest Groups, Bennett Lumber, Palouse Commercial. Some of our local support is coming from Bennett Lumber, Palouse Commercial Real Estate, Gritman, iMinerals, UP Railroad, and EMSI. So that's just a few. Our higher ed sponsors, the University of Idaho and LCSC, often do in-kind, and they provide meals and some of those services. Our public patron support of Lewiston, Latah County is going to provide some funding this year. We'll ask you here in a minute to provide some as well. And our chambers provide both cash and in-kind support for those as well. So again, it's an opportunity that only comes once, as Gary said, every 4 years. And it really is a lot of fun and very powerful and meaningful. And again, much of the public process is about impressions and relationships, and there are few opportunities that are so deep and rich than the tour. So with that, I'd ask the city to consider sponsoring at the $5,000 level, and that will truly help us, and that provides access at the banquet, gets you a table, and just gets you lots of time to engage with our legislators. Oftentimes also, we have state agencies that join us, transportation, water resources, certainly commerce is always there, labor, agriculture. So again, and we'll let you know ahead of time. We'll provide you updated itinerary lists and things that you want the legislators to see in this community. We are wide open. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Questions for Paul? Catherine?
So thank you for coming to Public Works and Finance and taking my questions there. So I wanted to follow up with you about the access for communication. You said the night of the dinner. So this is the pay-to-play opportunity. So how do we get the community members that aren't part of a business into the dinner? That,
well,
we have so many nonprofits in our community.
Mayor, Councilwoman, there are certain, you can buy tickets to the banquet if you're a community member, you're here in Moscow and you want to attend the banquet. But again, the city as a sponsor has a table, so you can bring your council and we'll make accommodations to ensure that everyone representing the city of Moscow has access that night. But it isn't just at the dinner. Mm-hmm. That's often fun with the governor and lots of other folks there, but it's really times where you can sit with somebody on the bus, and we even tell people, hey, meet them in Spokane at the airport and sit next to somebody that you've kind of identified as somebody you want to just chew on their ear for a while and talk about a topic like education funding. Target the JFAC members, target the education committee members. So there's lots of opportunities to sort of insert yourself not only at the dinner, but right, all through the 2.5 days. So
to follow up, you had mentioned that you talked to Greg Bailey. So are they going to be, is a representative from the school district going?
Well, we certainly hope so. And I'm not sure if, Gina, if you've had any conversations with him, but yeah, again, career technical education is huge. That's on the legislators' radar this year, and funding that more robustly, and always education is near and dear to many, and especially in this community, education is such an important economic driver here.
Other questions for Paul? Jim,
Yeah.
you were in that session as well.
Yeah,
Walter's not here with us tonight, but you were.
right. And Catherine as well. And I think Paul's done a great job of pitching this project here, and I'm certainly in support of it. I think it's great to get these people that, like you said, may never get up here if we don't bring them up here, and if we don't have eye-to-eye contact with them, or they don't have eye-to-eye contact with what goes on here, it's certainly out of sight, out of mind when it comes time to make decisions about funding for things. So I think it's well worth the investment.
Art?
Yeah, from my experience down in Boise with the Association of Idaho Cities meetings, there seems to be a certain myopia that extends the legislature's vision about as far as McCall. And having the opportunity to have them up here and actually talk to them on our turf for a change is very beneficial for us, I think. And I think this would be money very well spent in helping raise our profile with some of the legislatures from down the south and southeast.
So, and I'm in favor of having people come. I just wanted, as we discussed, more contact with the public entities. But I see that what you've clarified tonight, it has more of a focus of economic, transportation, and water?
Mayor, Councilwoman, not necessarily. I mean, I think the community can really prioritize what you want to engage the legislators.
So how do we do that?
So, but I guess maybe let me ask you, so you said the community, so are you thinking, well, is there a time where I can invite some of my community folks to meet with them?
Yes.
Again, it's logistically, there may be some challenges with that, but we open up all of the meetings and functions, so anybody is willing and is certainly has the ability to buy a ticket to a dinner or, register to take the tour.
Okay.
So we don't preclude anybody from attending, so in fact,
Okay.
we encourage that.
Okay.
Then we do get locals that hop on the bus and hang with us for a day or two. So again, and I can get you information about how that works, the mechanics behind
Sure,
that.
that'd be
So,
great. Thank you.
Yeah. No, the whole point of this is, we want Moscow to be as well represented as we possibly can. And so, yeah, I mean, the challenge is that there are perceptions in the legislature about northern Idaho, that this helps dispel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a constant battle, as many of you know.
Yes, it is, Paul.
Thank you for taking my questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to move approval of the sponsorship of the North Idaho Legislative Tour in the amount of $5,000 and authorize that funding from the legislative non-prioritized projects.
I will second that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Art and a second by Gina to approve the sponsorship of North Idaho Legislative Tour in the amount of $5,000 and authorize the funding from the legislative non-prioritized projects. I'll start the roll, John.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you, Paul, and you got it.
Well,
You bet. Thanks for the presentation.